Well, if a fight breaks out in a Buffalo school, should teachers and staff be required to break them up? The school board president says they should, but the Teachers Union Federation says it is not in their contract and it puts teachers at risk.
Right now, we are joined by Richard Nigro, president of the Buffalo Teachers Federation. Rich, it is great to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
So 2 days ago, we had BPS board member Larry Scott in to talk about this same issue. And what is your general reaction to what he had to say?
I agreed with a great deal about what he said. I mean, I agree with what he said. I don't have much to counter that. You know, the board members all have their own minds, their own opinions, and they're each within their right to express that opinion. But yeah, I agree with what Larry said.
You and I have been talking over the past couple of weeks about this issue as it's been bubbling up to the surface. And you said this week the two sides were going to come together and try to work something out. Do you have any updates on that? Have you guys come together?
So we have. I know the superintendent and I talked before the board meeting on the 12th, and she brought that up, and I said, yeah, of course, I'm always willing to talk about anything before. To try to resolve something, to try to come to an understanding, to try to work through things. Talking is the best way to get there until it's not. And that board meeting on Wednesday was simply a response to a comment that was made publicly at May's board meeting. That's it. Had that not taken place that way, and board President Kottman and I spoke before May's board meeting. But because of the comments that were made, I was compelled to respond in public. And again, she and I have talked a number of times before. We have each other's cell phone numbers, so I don't have a problem with that. But I have a job to do, so that's what I did.
In case viewers at home are watching right now, maybe they missed the interview 2 days ago. Maybe give us a little background, what the comments were, and really what the union policy is for teachers when it comes to stepping in.
So, I mean, the comments, and I don't want to get too deep into it. I mean, the board meeting is, you know, saved on YouTube. Anybody can go back and watch that. But the gist of it was the board president's opinion that teachers are paid a certain amount of money now based on the contract that they've received. One of the responsibilities should be to break up fights. Now, whether she meant that literally would be a question that she would have to answer. The union's position, and it's always been this, is that teachers are not, they're advised not to physically intervene in fights for a number of reasons, obvious reasons. You know, teachers can get injured. If you're injured, then you're not going to be able to, you know, ensure the safety of the other students. And board member Larry Scott was talking about you can do other things. You can do crowd control, give verbal commands, call the office, call security, call for help from a neighbor, send a kid to call, get somebody from help. I've done all those things. And, you know, going against what our former president, Phil Rumore, suggested, the same thing. And in my 26 years, I've broken hundreds of fights up. So it is a personal, it's an individual's choice as to whether or not they're going to intervene physically or not. We recommend they don't, simply because we don't want to see our members injured. But you do have an obligation to intervene. In any one of those ways that we mentioned before, you have an obligation. It's a professional obligation, it's a moral obligation, and no teacher wants to see their kids hurt. Most teachers that I know have physically intervened in fights. But that is not part of the job, and it shouldn't be the expectation that that's part of the job. And to insinuate that one doesn't care because the union advises members not to physically intervene is just a wrong message to send.
Among the other points that Larry was making as well, in terms of the spirit of collaboration between the school board and the teachers union, is that, hey, listen, it's not like we have an excess amount of teachers out there to just go wherever we need them to be. If a teacher is out long term because they get hurt trying to break up a fight, that has consequences much further down the road than just this week or maybe the next couple of days. That has to be a consideration too. It's not like you guys just have teachers lying around that can just replace one another. I mean, you have enough people to do the job.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and you have, again, the board and the district did a great job at bolstering the security staff. That's important. You need that, especially at the elementary schools. There's a fight the week of the board meeting last week, and a teacher was injured and sent to the hospital from that, 5th grade student. So it's not a matter of, again, you have to take into account all the factors, all the staff. You have a responsibility as a district to ensure the safety of everybody who goes, the kids, you know, and all the staff, teacher aides, assistants, custodial staff, administrators, everybody. And you have an obligation to do what's right for the kids and the parents and communication. But that's the piece, and you alluded to that in your interview on Wednesday, that we all, and I said this a year ago when we talked, that we all have a common interest, and that's the kids. That's the only reason why we're working this job. And so, you know, the teachers have to have a seat at the table. The district's got to have it. The board has to. Parents have to. We all have to work together at this thing. Fights is not something you're going to eradicate, and it's never going to happen. I got into fights in high school before. That stuff is going to be there. The difference is, what's the expectation realistically? How do we respond to that and keep folks safe? And one thing, if I could, we have, over the course of the last year, established a working relationship and an open dialogue with the district. We began in September, and actually before that, but September was our first official labor management meeting, and we've had it at least monthly, and sometimes a couple times a month on various topics, and we have another one coming up on Monday with a superintendent on school safety, and that was planned for some weeks now, and it's a follow-up in a series of meetings. So we have this relationship now where we're moving forward and trying to see, okay, what do you need? What do we need? Where can we come and meet in the middle someplace? And let's make this thing better. And I think that we now have this, a newer superintendent, newer leadership in the Federation, all working toward that same goal. All of the pieces got to work in the same direction.
And that collaboration certainly is very important.
Right.
Rich, we thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.